I think extended reality and everything that's happening with spatial computing is going to assist me on my mission to removing loneliness from the world, because with spatial computing, I can have my friend sit in my living room, and again, as it evolves, they could just sit in my living room, or my therapist can, just be maybe a JPEG of, the penguin, one of my NFTs, right? And just be talking to me. And that idea really excites me. And it's not some dystopian thing where it's like going to take me out of the physical. It's going to actually help us mend the two worlds that we're actually really disconnected with right now. Everybody's saying, they're seeing the Apple Vision Pro. Oh, it's so dystopian. What they don't understand is the real dystopian is the Black Mirror, which is the phone screen right now. You're looking down. And then what the next 10 years is going to be is we're looking up and we're looking around. So it goes from looking down to looking around. And I like that. I like that idea.
Welcome to Object Subject Form, a series of conversations exploring the human side of creativity at the evolving intersection of art, technology, and finance. Today's conversation is with Michaela Lallouz, aka Mika. It's a story of taking risks and overcoming the intrusive thoughts and mental struggles that often plague and paralyze so many of us on our creative journeys. She is a creator with a humanitarian spirit whose nomadic journey has taken her out of her comfort zone and across the world to meet some of the most influential people in leadership and technology. We will discuss the impact of digital ownership on creatives and how art and self-expression played a huge role in saving her life. We will hear about the value and importance of online communities, especially in a time where so many of us have had experiences of loneliness and isolation. Mika is also the CCO of the XR company OD Labs, the creators of the first generative on-chain mixed reality companion, which we will discuss in more depth later in the show. Mika, welcome. Thank you for sharing your really valuable time with us today. I know you're busy, and thanks for coming by before you travel to your next point of interest, your next country that you'll be moving on to.
Thank you so much. That's like, when you say my story like that, I'm like, okay, all right. I need to read that over and over, because I was just thinking about it and I'm like, it really is a story like that. No, I appreciate that. I'm really excited to be here and to, have a nice conversation with you. You're a very interesting individual and you do really cool things. So I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you. Likewise, I was impressed with our first conversation, and I was like, well, if you've got any time, could we just get it down and get it recorded? And so thank you for sharing it with us as well. Let's get started. When we did meet a little while ago, the thing that really did stick out to me was your overwhelming desire to want to help people and your ultimate goal of eliminating loneliness on the planet. And I just wanted to get into that a bit more, because I know our time was short when we were sitting down having coffee. So what's your key motivator for this? What drives your passion, and have you always had this humanitarian spirit?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's just this burning desire that if I'm not, eliminating loneliness from the world, then I'm not doing it right. I think it stemmed from definitely my upbringing. I'm also the director of Mission Bonita, which is a whole project that's dedicated to emotional well-being of children. And my mom is the author and creator of it. And I think it's her mission as well. And she's focused on children all over the world. And that energy got to me. But when it really became a burning desire is when I think we all were during the pandemic, during the COVID times, where I was really struggling with loneliness, like severe, to paint the picture really quick. It's like, it's cold. We're in Canada. You can't leave the house. And that was in a way a blessing in disguise. It felt like the worst thing in the world, but it was a blessing in disguise being so lonely, because it led me to this tech space, this world of people that just love to come together and share their story about art. And that saved my life. So when I was in that horrible time, which again, blessing in disguise, I stumbled upon this Clubhouse room that said, share your story NFT. And I had no idea what any of these things were, but I was like, share your story, and for anybody that doesn't know what Clubhouse is, it's this live social audio platform. I'm very like into social audio. I think, I used to be, I still am actually very into like Joe Rogan and podcasts. Like I love what we're doing right now. I think this is super important, because when I listen to a podcast, I feel like I'm a part of the conversation. And if you're somebody that, maybe doesn't have friends right now to like connect with, or you're not like part of a community and you're just kind of like, feeling like you're just floating and I don't know, listen to a podcast. You hear passionate people talking about something. It doesn't even need to be something that you want to, that you're into, but just listening to those people having that discussion, you're like, oh, I'm a part of this conversation right now. So definitely Joe Rogan like made me feel like I was part of the conversation. And then I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Everybody's anonymous on Clubhouse at the time. And I see that, share your story. And I joined that room, and that night changed my life, because it was a group of strangers, literally all over the world, completely anonymous, sharing their story. And it was like, oh, wow, I felt like I was a part of something. And then I just never left. I stayed every single day. We kind of just, woke up night. I don't know. The time was just didn't exist. And they were talking about art. And I was like, I don't know. I just felt like we kind of lost it. Like I felt like every industry was like, just there was like film, and then there's and it's like if you were an artist, you were so like in such a category, and it was like you had to be a painter, like a Picasso, to be like considered an artist. And it was like these people were just, anybody could be an artist. Anybody could take the mic and host their own room on Clubhouse. Like anybody could be an artist. Anybody could, pick up the paint and, do it. And I was very inspired by that. And it, again, like changed my life, learning something new. If anybody's ever in a down spot, just learn something new. It really actually changes the chemicals like in your brain and makes you like happier. It's really interesting. So I was learning something new every single day, learning about the tech. I had no idea. I was never into really blockchain. Like it did not make sense to me. But I was like, this is going to change the world of art. Like at the time, I saw it very clearly in regards to provenance, and we could probably talk about that at another point. But provenance and blockchain and stuff. So yeah, that changed my life.
Would you say it was the sampling the community spirit of all of it? I think looking back at that time too, podcasts and, Instagram lives, it was a sort of a way to almost keep you company.
It was to tap in.
Yeah. And it was like a, prime time for that. I mean, the stars sort of aligned, and a lot of this connectivity came out of it. And you realize, like, as a creative, as an artist, you're not alone, and you're not alone in even the struggle of it. And it was a place for people to constantly connect and discuss and bring each other up, I think. And what I've really, discovered is there's so much support that I actually, if you rewind like 4 years ago, I didn't know where to even look for that, honestly. We all get wrapped up in our careers, but you have your side projects and your artistic interests, and there was finally a place where it's like a lot of shared minds and shared conversation about that.
I can't believe that it was 3 years ago, because I'm looking back and it's like, it's just such a reminder to anybody that just feels like it's all over. Sorry to be dramatic, but it's like, it's all over, because I thought that. And oh my goodness gracious, like I feel like I've lived 15 billion different lifetimes in the past 3 years. Great lifetimes, like incredible lifetimes. And it's just like, even right now, I feel like, how did I even get here? Sitting with you, like you're such an interesting individual. You do incredible things. And I'm like, how did we go from, mom's basement at the time, struggling, like really just not in a good place, to now here. And it's like, wow, it's a big reminder. And I actually vowed, when I healed through art, I really think that art saves lives. I definitely put the pain in the painting. I was struggling a lot during the pandemic with intrusive thoughts. And that's kind of like what, pretty much almost took me out. I was like, I can't, a lot of time to ruminate. And then I started to do reflective journaling on photographs that I took of myself, because at the time I would like look at these photos I would take of myself, post on Instagram, whatever. And I'd be like, would people still like this photo if they actually knew what was happening in my head? Like, would they still be like pretty or cool or whatever if they knew everything that was going on? And I was like, well, let's just put it out there, And I did, with not holding back. Like, reflective journaling is when you just word vomit, like you just no holding back, punctuation, like doesn't matter, doesn't even need to make sense, right words. And I was like, oh my God. It cured me. I was like, oh, instead of this being something that I hate, this is actually a superpower. Like, I could actually pick up on, these thoughts that I'm thinking and feeling. It's like, it's a gift, and I could use it to create art. I could use it to tap in with people. I could use it to, really understand people and feel people. Because I think a lot of people, they want to feel understood. And I'm like, well, maybe I can make them feel understood. And when I got cured from that, I vowed actually always to share my story and to like always, pass the torch and keep it going. And I think that's what happens in the Web3 space that a lot of people don't notice or don't see, but it's all about passing the torch and, onboarding, like the whole thing about quote unquote onboarding, like it sounds cringe, but it's passing the torch and teaching people and passing down knowledge. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to host rooms. I'm going to host, now we call it, spaces on X, or I'm going to do a podcast. Like I'm going to share it because it's so important that people are aware that everything can change and that it could feel like it's over, but maybe one level is over and you're about to start the next one.
And I love what you said there. And I did read somewhere where you mentioned, the whole topic about educating yourself so you can educate others. And how do you go about that? Like, of course, yes, we can learn and teach ourselves, but sometimes that information is maybe not as familiar as, say, you've had a career in something for 10 years and then, you can sort of have the authority on that topic and now teach it back. But things that you're educating yourself on in the moment and then having to go and share that information. And I know you have traveled a lot and you've met a lot of influential people and you've been educating people even outside of, maybe your core interest. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Oh, definitely. Ask questions. I am so driven to encourage people to ask more questions. Ever since I was, a teenager, I was always not afraid to ask questions because I knew if I asked those questions, that it would take me to where I want to go. Knowledge is power. And I think a lot of people are so afraid to ask questions. And I'm not afraid to quote unquote look stupid because I know that if I'm in presence of a smart being, like a truly intellectual being, that if I ask them a question, they're not going to try to make me look stupid. They're actually going to educate me and they're going to teach me. I actually had somebody, I remember I was invited to the parliament in Berlin. And it was government communication forum. I remember I was about maybe 18, 19, and I didn't know something because I don't know. I didn't even really have a background, but I always had this calling, in this like industry to be around those type of people. Again, questions led me there. One question led to another, curiosity. Curiosity definitely didn't kill the cat. It made it really rich and smart and brought it to amazing people. But I remember I was there and, this guy, he goes, oh, do you know about such and such? And I think he was trying to make me feel stupid for not being educated about it. And I looked at him and I said, no, I don't know this, but I would love for you to educate me on it. And the head of the whole program heard that and actually came up to me after and was like, that was the most profound thing I ever heard. And then, we got connecting, we got talking. And ever since then, it gave me the confidence to I don't think anybody knows everything. Nobody knows everything. I've met, I think the most, just to what I think the most smart people in the world, like the most successful, they don't even know everything about everything. Nobody knows everything about everything. So once you get that out of the way, you're like, okay, anybody trying to make me feel a certain way is just, they're not confident with what they know.
Right.
And I'm very confident with what I know and what I don't know. And I'm so excited to learn about what I don't know. And that's like what's really cool about actually the emerging tech space is that it's always emerging. And we're always learning. There's always something new to learn. And I love that because I don't like when it just gets like stale and stagnant. There's always something new to tap into. Sometimes it gets really overwhelming, like really overwhelming. But asking questions. So what I do is I think the Clubhouse rooms and the Twitter spaces have been a really cool way for me to learn. So what I'll do is I'll, go into a room. They might be talking about a topic that, is up and coming that like now, given the alpha and whatnot. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? I'll go into that room, ask those questions, match it up with like, if I'll try to find something on YouTube or, the internet about it. But you know what? It's actually really interesting. I didn't realize how early I was in regards to the Web3 space because there was nothing on the internet about the next phase of the internet, like absolutely nothing. And so I would have to go to the community because to learn because
that's where the information
is. And it still is to this day. Yeah. Like a lot of like the community is building things like, first of its kind. So it's not out there yet and really experimenting. So going to these rooms, spaces is a great way for right now, of course, obviously it always kind of changes, but it's been great. I'll learn there and then I'll be like, okay, how do I explain this like I'm 5? Because like, what's going on? And I even go up into these spaces and like, I'll see people using big words and I'm like, break it down, like we need to level this out because if you can't explain it like you're 5, then you yourself just can't explain it at all. So like I try to get it like as easy as so that grandma can understand or, the 5-year-old can understand. And then I'll simplify that and then I'll make my content. And it's actually just good for me because I just learn because I'm like, well, how could I teach this to people if I don't really know? So.
Yeah. And do you think what takes away the anxiety of this too is like the technology is evolving so fast. And I mean, you could say that there's no real expert right now.
No.
I mean, everyone's learning from each other. So I think, it kind of takes away those inhibitions of asking questions in the room because it is quite a level playing field. There's obviously people who are like more advanced, but the expertise.
Actually, it got a little, people started to get a little bougie in the community actually because we were all leveled
out.
After
a few years.
After like 3 years, I started people being like, wait, like you're making fun. People will kind of do it to me sometimes like, oh, Mika, Michaela, you've been here for so long and you don't know about this. And I'm like, no. No, I don't because there's so much to focus on, there's so many different aspects of the industry because it really is, it's the next phase of the internet. So it's like a lot of people kind of group Web3 as this like niche thing, but it's like, no, you have Web 1 and then you have Web 2 and then we have Web 3 and that's just this. There's a lot of things that encompass Web3, blockchain technology and smart contracts and non-fungible tokens, aka NFTs. And there's so much with the digital assets on chain. Like there's so much that encompasses like this. And then there's like, that industry of those things. But it's like, I'm not a crypto trader. I don't sit and trade crypto. Do I understand how to read the blockchain? Yeah, I do.
Yep.
There's things that are still, again, always changing, always evolving. I'm not like, again, nobody's an expert. And I kind of like that. But yeah, people sort of after, 3 years, they still try to, bite in that area. And I'm always like very firm, where I'm like, one, if I don't know about it, maybe that company just has bad marketing. I've had people be like, you don't know about this company? Hey, I'm here every day. Why aren't you tapping into me? That's a marketing thing.
With everything that's going on, are you trying to carve out a specific space in all of it? Because it can get overwhelming and, like your area of expertise or your area of knowledge or where you really want to have impact. Is there like a specific place where you think, Mika fits?
I have to think about that one. Place that, I just want to, again, it goes back to my core drive, which is making people feel less lonely. And whether that's through the medium of spaces on Twitter, or if it's through group IRL, like in real life meetups, however it is, the medium might always change because, you know, at the time it was Clubhouse, and then now it's Spaces, and now we do some in real life stuff. Sometimes it was Discord, you know, however it is, that's the space that I want to hold. I haven't like quite grasped it yet. Yeah. But definitely through spaces right now, like spoken word, like the live social audio, that's like where, you know, there's a space for the people that, you know, really tap in with me and I like holding that with them and bringing people together, meeting like extraordinary people. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned when you were going through some of your struggles, you just started to write. And it starting with the written word, and then things evolving to the spoken word, and then evolving into, I'm sure, some kind of visuals or some kind of product or something that you actually want to manifest. But I found it interesting that you said everything started with writing and then your art grew out of that.
It's actually interesting because before all of this, I was in film. So, and I got into film because I would look around me and I'd be like, this world is so beautiful. How do I show everybody what I see? And you know, my mission, I used to do this thing called Flicks by Mick. Status there. And it was basically a series of videos, like kind of like short films where I would, you know, talk about these topics that people weren't really talking about at the time. Definitely it was like, you know, talking about anxiety or, you know, depression, like all of these topics, but I would do it in like my way. Or I would talk about like meditation, and the way that I would do that would be like, let's say I'm like, okay, you know what? People think of meditation and they're like, okay, I need to go sit cross-legged and just like close my eyes, and I just can't do that. And a place that I really like to meditate is the shower, like just getting into, you know, that vibe and to like this song and to this music. So I would like, you know, play a song by FKJ, like vibing out, and then just, you know, have these purple pink lights and then just do a voiceover and actually like film, you know, the shower process. Okay. You know, you got any
it's
ideas?
All of the senses.
All of the sense, and like do videos like that. Or even, you know, how to overcome anxiety. And it was like Michaela, the game character in a video game, and, you know, she has to overcome anxiety and like how, you know, she would do that. Or I did, you know, a virtual reality therapy series where like we explore the subconscious of Michaela, and I like wrote, filmed, edited, like all of this stuff myself, just like made it. And we're going deep into the subconscious and helping explore ideas like, you know, people always say, I don't know, for example. And when you ask people something like, how do you feel? I don't know. And then something that I actually said that I was just thinking about like just yesterday, and this was like 4 years ago, but in the video where I'm exploring Michaela's consciousness through virtual reality therapy, which is funny because of the Apple Vision Pro now, but this was like 4 years ago. Those things, you know, didn't really exist. I just kind of like made it up. I'm like, what if we did therapy in VR? The therapy session said, well, if you did know, what would you say? And like we would, you know, kind of explore those things like dreams and like wearing a mask and like all of this stuff, or even like how to get long lasting fulfillment and, you know, getting out of instant gratification. But like all of these concepts, but like a while back, like when no one was really talking about it. I think I was a little bit of ahead, which made me feel a little lonely because I'm like, does anybody care?
Like now, right? Does anyone get
does
Web3?
anybody care? Yeah.
I'm on my own.
But so it started with that, actually. And my first piece was actually called The 72 Names of God. And it was global transformation. And the 72 names is from this ancient Kabbalah wisdom where it's this like mysticism where it says that there's 72 names and it's written in Aramaic letters. And there's these combinations, and it's kind of like these, code combinations. And it says that if you make an eye connection with those combinations, that they emanate different energies. So I chose global transformation, and I actually made this like cipher. And so that was the first one. And that was like my breakthrough. And then the second one was the evil eye. And this was really cool to create because I was like, the codes were almost like talking to me. Listen, I was, I was deep in it in
this
COVID.
Was 2 of the 72.
Yeah, 2 of the 72. Right. Who knows? Maybe I'll revive this in some way, shape, or form. But I actually made an augmented reality filter. This was 3 years ago. That would activate the code to the collector. So I was experimenting with this from a while back. And then the second collection was the Intrusive Thoughts series, which was really cool because from there I couldn't believe that I was making money from something that made me not want to be here anymore. And I was like, wow.
Making money from those thoughts that were entering your mind.
Yeah, because I was selling those pieces. People were buying, a prints, canvas, like the NFTs, putting it on the blockchain. And I was like, whoa.
But you said not wanting to be here. What do you mean? Like
physically.
Physically?
Yeah. Like that's how deep it was. And it really was because of the intrusive thoughts. So it was really life-changing, the fact that is what pretty much put me on. And it'll always be there. That's the beauty of the blockchain, is that it's always on chain. So that story is always there. Always going to exist. Yeah. And it's actually funny because the person that gave me, so there's something called a gas fee when you upload your artwork. And at the time it was like $100. Like it was really high because a lot of people were like doing it. So it was like April 2021. And Tetra, who's the CEO of OD Labs and OD. So now I'm working like CCO of the company. But at the time, he's the one that onboarded me to the space. And because he was experimenting with all this art and he's been doing like extended reality from time. He's like a whole conversation on its own. But he onboarded me. He gave me the gas fee to upload my artwork. And now here we are today, like doing the XR stuff for the next phase of the internet. So it's like, it just comes full circle. It's crazy.
And 2 things there, for those who are not too familiar, like the gas fee, could you explain?
Yeah. So basically there is a fee that when you upload, it depends on what chain, but there's like, let's say for Solana, there's like a small little, a little upload fee pretty much is the gas fee, or like a transaction fee. So you'll have a gas fee when, let's say you're sending stuff on chain, and sometimes they could vary. It could get high, it could get low. Sometimes it's like $4. Sometimes it's like, $100. Sometimes it's $1,000, which it gets crazy on blockchains like Ethereum. But yeah, so the gas fee is just a transaction fee.
Got it. Thanks for breaking it down for
I was like,
there'll be people that are listening that
no, definitely.
Are not too sure what
I'm not even sure at this point. I don't think anybody's sure. No. But
I'm sure when it gets high, I pay more attention to it when it's.
There was a time during this what I guess people the bull market. I think this was like November 2021. The transaction fee to like process a transaction. So I'll call it a transaction fee, but the gas fees for certain assets at the time, like I would pay like $1,000 in just a transaction fee, meaning like nobody's getting that money except for like the, people processing it, whatever, the whole thing. But I knew that in less than 10 minutes, I'd be able to triple that money.
You'd recoup.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is crazy.
Like pay 1,000, make 10,000.
Yeah.
In like 30 minutes. So it's like, you just got to send it sometimes.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
If you have the conviction.
Yeah, definitely. There are some big risks when you're trading. So beware. Yes. I think a lot of people mistaken the space, like you need a lot of money to get into the space. So I actually have done this really cool thing. Ooh, I'm excited to talk about it right now. I did this thing where till this day, so for the past 3 years, let's put it like this, quote unquote, never bought crypto. Not that I don't know how, it's that I never took my own money to buy crypto just to show people that you can get to where I've gotten, which I've generated a lot from this. I don't have, I guess now the exact number, but at the time I was like, well over like 100 Ethereum, like, from quote unquote nothing. All you need is yourself and to pay attention. Just pay attention. And whether that's from getting in early on a project, whether that's from taking your knowledge that you learn, let's say in a Twitter space, from listening to people talk, and you start consulting and monetizing from that in other places. Like if you hang out on Twitter for like a week and you go into the right rooms, you could take all of that and bring that to LinkedIn or, Instagram.
Right. And you'll meet the right people.
You'll meet the right people, and that will give you the right knowledge to propel you forward and be early, being early to things and having that knowledge and really understanding things and learning how to communicate it to other people is definitely something that people can monetize from. I know I do, and did. And so I do that. And I've done it a couple of times. Like I went from 0 to 100, many times, many times. And I just keep doing it. And I always just say like, I want to keep doing it so that people could really get away from this misconception that you need to be rich, like that it's a rich people's game. It's not. It's actually funny because in 2020, 2021, that was the best transfer of wealth I've ever seen. Yeah. That was amazing. Like you had a good transfer of wealth there. It's definitely not for the rich. It is if probably from the outside looking in, it looks that way, but you don't need money to participate. Like I have generated so much just by paying attention. And it happens every single day in this space. If you pay attention for like a couple of months, you can make it, whether by meeting extraordinary people, like yourself, or getting an airdrop, or just like getting early to something. Like a lot of these things are free, like a lot of the art, you can claim it for free.
Right.
In 3 months, it's worth 10K. And you're just like, okay.
Right.
And
paying attention, and also, so we have the knowledge side of things. And educating yourself and passing on the knowledge and showing up, being in the spaces. And you also have the art side as well, and creating your art, building your own community as well. And you mentioned your Intrusive Thoughts collection. And one of the things that I really do love and appreciate in this space, from what I've heard from different people, is, there's many stories of individuals being in, a dark space and stumbling upon NFTs, and then being able to pull themselves out through their artistic expression. And I think that's a really beautiful experience for people to have, obviously themselves, but also share that back, because there's a lot of people in the same position, especially artists. It's not an easy path. And so your Intrusive Thoughts collection, was that your first collection that you created?
The first one was the 72 names, and the Intrusive Thoughts was the second one. Yeah. So the first one was like through the medium of film.
Yeah.
And then the second one was like, okay, this is just therapeutic.
Yeah.
But I stopped doing that one. And kind of expressing myself in that way, because I don't know if this happens to you or, anyone tuning in, but sometimes when you start monetizing from something, it's very hard, because then what happened was, it was amazing. I was like making money from it, but then I was like, I would make a piece and I was like, no, I can't put this out there. I can't sell this. It's not good enough. It's not good enough to put out there.
You start judging your own work.
You start judging it. And then it just completely changed. And then I stopped being able to create. I was like, I can't. I started to freeze. I'm like, I just can't. I'm like, it's just, and now because in my mind, it was like, first I was just doing it, just reflective journaling, and it was just for me. I was like, oh, also, honestly, this looks cool. Like, I want this in my room. And like, I would, I travel a lot. I guess a little bit of a nomad, just because I like to go where the energy flows. And I'm like, how do I make something home? So sometimes when I go to a new place, I'll like go to Walgreens and I'll just like print out one of my pieces and I'll hang it up in my room. And then I'll get like, I don't know, some pink or purple light from Amazon, and I'll just put that there. And I'm like, we're back, we're back. And I'm like, yeah, this looks good. Like, I'm doing it for me. I'm expressing myself. This looks good in my room. But then, I started to express myself in different ways. But till this day, I can't do it. I don't know. Actually, after that, I started to explore doing the Intrusive Thoughts series, but actually in virtual reality, which was really cool, because, oh my God, you can to change your environment, like to have that like power, is something that I think a lot of people don't understand. That is a really big power like your environment is everything. And sometimes people don't have the luxury to, you know, travel or change their environment. But let's say you had this device. Now, I know they're a little expensive right now, but let's say like as we evolve, you know, it could become as common as like, you know, a cell phone, to be able to just be in a room. Like let's say you're just somewhere you really don't like, but you could just, with the snap of your finger, change your environment completely. And boom, I'm in a studio. It's like, I don't need a studio anymore. I could literally just be here. I'm in my studio and I'm just painting and I'm just writing my thoughts everywhere. And then I started to like, you're just like a magician in it because I could like shrink the thoughts, make it. And then when I put them out there, I'm like, oh, I could just shrink this. And something that my mom taught me actually, shout out Lisa, is, and what we would actually teach people with the children's series is sometimes things are just a small part of your very big life. And it helps you just zoom out, you know, when something happens and you just feel like, oh my God, everybody knows, or this is the end. And, you know, it's over. It's so over. If you just kind of zoom out a little bit, you could make it maybe just a small part of your very big life. And that's like what I was experiencing in virtual reality, where I was like, so all of these thoughts are so big and they just consume me. And I'm like 5 feet tall. They just consume me, these big thoughts. But then when I'm in the VR space and I was doing it, I was like, well, I could just shrink it. And, you know, and
I think we often do that to ourselves, right? We create these bigger problems in our mind. And I love what you said about being able to transform your surroundings almost as it's a form of therapy. And being able to transport yourself to another location where your surroundings may not be serving you, you know, correctly at that time. And of course, when you take your headset off, you're back in your environment. But there's something to be said about the meditative process there as well, and being able to disconnect a little bit from your reality.
Definitely. Just to show you that there's another reality, like there's an option. Because I think sometimes when people get into a really, at least I know for myself, when they get into this place, you know, it's almost like nothing else exists. It's like, this is the only option. This is the only reality. And that's a really bad, like it just makes you feel, again, like it's the end or it's over. But to have that option, it's like, it just shows you there's something else. There's something else out there. And I think that thought is a little bit hopeful. And I'm definitely, I think extended reality and everything that's happening with spatial computing is going to assist me on my mission to removing loneliness from the world because, with spatial computing, I can have my friend sit in my living room and again, as it evolves, they could just sit in my living room, or my therapist can, just be maybe a JPEG of, the penguin, right. one of my NFTs, right? Yeah. And just be talking to me. And that idea really excites me. And it's not some dystopian thing where it's like going to take me out of the physical. It's going to actually help us mend the two worlds that we're actually really disconnected with right now. Everybody's saying, they're seeing the Apple Vision Pro. Oh, it's so dystopian. What they don't understand is the real dystopian is the Black Mirror, which is the phone screen right now. You're looking down. And then what the next 10 years is going to be is we're looking up and we're looking around. So it goes from looking down to looking around. And I like that. I like that idea. And I think like all of it connects together. And it makes me very excited for digital assets and art and connection and community.
And actually bringing that into your space. Because right now you kind of have to go somewhere online, digital world, internet, like to view everything. And, now there's a way to have it in your environment with you and, merging those two worlds together as you put it. So I think there's a lot of beauty there to explore. And how, do you feel like blended reality is the mechanism for you to fulfill a large percentage of your personal creative desires? Yeah,
definitely. I want to do a lot of things with the mixed reality. I think virtual reality is really cool and exciting. But I like the physical, like I like the fact that with augmented reality, it's augmenting your reality. It's not taking away from your reality. It's just augmenting it. It's just adding to it. Like instead of being on, the Twitter spaces and looking at the JPEG, it's like, well, this could be just so much cooler. Like instead of me just looking here and like it's so small, it's like, this could be
being
all around me.
Sociable.
Yeah, or the art that I collect and it being around and just So I like mixed reality. Like for those people that hear the words virtual reality and they're just like, no. Like, I can't do this. Okay, that's fine. But what about the mixed reality? Just like augmenting the reality. I mean, like, I don't know. There's been a lot of talk of, this dystopian, this and that. And like people are bringing in stuff that already is. Like we already do have an issue with social media and how we feel. And like, I remember I was on a space just like a couple of days ago. People were like, yeah, and this and that. And, what about the children? Like, the children are on Roblox and like on Fortnite. Like, they're already inside. Like, what do you mean, what about the children, So there's other things we need to worry about there and do, but it has nothing to do with the hardware and the software, So to anybody, thinking that, it's like,
It's a lot of positive.
Yeah, definitely. People already do therapy in VR. And I think that's really interesting because I think that it gets people, first of all, you don't have to leave your house. I think there's a big barrier. A lot of people maybe do want to get help, but they, just don't want to leave. And they also want to be anonymous. And I think that there's like AA meetups as well in VR. I think like it's already starting, but I think that there's a lot of positive. And just for me, there's a comfort in knowing that I have an international community and that there's always people to tap in with and that you really are never alone. And this hardware propels that.
Right. And it's always on, always accessible. Right. I'd love to talk a little bit about your creative process. I know, we talked before this conversation about how, you can, as creatives, it's very hard to turn off. And just listening to you, as you're so passionate about everything you're doing. But I'm sure you carry a lot of that all the time. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to understand this. And you're obviously an artist at heart and you take your art seriously and you take your contribution to being here in this world like very seriously as well. So how do you balance and also achieve so many of your creative desires? Like what tips do you have for people who can get overwhelmed and I'm sure paralyzed by having so many creative thoughts?
Oh my God. I have like an existential crisis maybe once a week. Something that I'm doing that I learned this week that I've been implementing is not being 100% accessible. And what do I mean by that is being accessible is like, it's not just being accessible to like work or friends or it's like your phone is always being accessible. And it's like, it's like giving myself time to be not accessible so that I could connect to myself, the creator, the universe, not being fully accessible. Like not being unaccessible, but leaving that time to download and really trust, okay, where's this coming from? Like I do want to make sure that when I am producing content or when I am, doing these things that it's not coming from a place of like lack or it's not coming from a place of like, I need validation. Okay. I need people to like this video because I want them to think I'm smart or I want them to think this or, whatever it is. It's like, okay, how can I, to the people that are watching, how can I help them, make them, smarter? And sometimes I have to like wash all the other stuff away, and get down to that. And that's what I'm going to be implementing like this week. I think like one of my mentors told me that. And I was like, I need to be, less like, just have that time with the creator, myself, whatever, somebody believes in. If it's like you time, but just getting that time so you can really tap in with yourself And because it gets very overwhelming because there's always something to do. There's always something to create. And then it's kind of just this burning desire of like, okay, if I'm not creating, if I'm not posting, if I'm not doing this, but it's like time is really what we make it in a weird way. But I definitely do struggle with like, okay, I need to ride on this momentum. And if I'm not riding on this momentum, like I'm just anxious. But being anxious is not going to help you create. So that's where it goes with the whole not being accessible and having time to download. Because when you're anxious or when you're angry, you're releasing cortisol, like the chemical. And that actually, it's like when you're stressed out, it's very hard to create. You can't create because the chemicals in your brain are just like fight or flight.
Yep.
Fight or flight. And then so it's like, how could you really receive the blessing that is a good idea? Or, tap in with yourself and that creativity if you're constantly just, in that fight or flight. Now, it's been a journey for me because I am often in a fight or flight. I'll be, keeping it real. That's just kind of how things are for me. That's now it's a little bit like better, more calm, smooth sailing a bit. But yeah, for the past 3 years, that's part of also another reason why I wasn't able to create so much, because I was in that fight or flight and I was very stressed out and I started to get like, okay, this is really happening. I'm going here, I'm going there. And then I can't download. But actually just this week, I was like, you know what? It's good. I just have to trust that the right ideas are going to come. I have to connect to myself. I have to download and really believe.
Yeah. I really identify with that because like I was saying before, it's always on. You can always tap in. And I find myself like, even if I have to step away for a week, it's almost like managing two lives, right? Yeah. You've got your life and what you're doing outside. And then I think the trick is how do you, kind of try to blend the two, and what your desire is in this space almost becoming part of what you're doing here now, right? And so then that's the challenges I've been sort of trying to figure out, like, how do I make time for everything and also make time to, like you said, receive? Because when you do have anxiety and you are stressed out, yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it's very hard for you to receive that blessing, right? It's almost like when you're, what's the word? Like when you're in lack, or if you're in this constant sort of drip of fear, it's very hard to grow when you're in the negative. It's like being in debt and trying to save. It's the same thing. And so having that kind of balance, I think creatively, it's something that I think about a lot. And when you have your relationships and you have your friends that may not be, into the same sort of topics that you're educating yourself on and you're putting out there as well, and creating that real sense of balance between everything and taking care of your body, taking care of your mind. Sometimes I look at my screen and it's like, oh, you get the alert. It's like your screen time was 8 hours.
Mine was 20.
20, yeah. See, I'm not doing enough then, am I?
Yeah, no. But it's like, I don't know. Are those 20 hours good? Like, I don't know, I like that though. I find that when I do sometimes go in and out, I actually come back with refreshed energy. I think it's really important for people to actually go outside of like their genre. So let's say you're in, the art space, right? Go listen to a podcast or go do something that has nothing to do with the industry that you're in. And you're going to come back so refreshed and rejuvenated, and then your content's going to hit. Mm-hmm. Like your stuff is going to hit. I think a lot of people are like afraid to step away, especially in the Web3 space, because like you could, if you step away, you could miss like 100K in like 2 seconds, and I've had to really deal with that.
And let it go.
Yeah. At the time it used to be like a constant stress. Like I need to be up all the time. But I started to realize like, okay, like, yeah, there are projects, for Earth or things that, I've seen that were worth $50. Now they're worth $1 million, $100,000, whatever. And you're just like, dang it. But you just, I've learned to really like let it go and also understand that like when money flows and like when people win, like it's good for the industry, it's good for me, and that like my stuff like will come. Just stay tapped in and
and not making it about that, right? I mean, it's like, you know, if we're constantly thinking about the monetization, you know, that can be very consuming.
Oh, I've seen it drive people crazy.
Yeah.
That's actually also why I don't trade. There is an aspect of the industry which is crypto trading. Like it really is an industry, and people, you know, make a good living on it. But you have to be by your computer 24/7 and like really treat it like it's a job. And that's not something I like to do. I'm more like the art, and you know, I do appreciate the technology and I like the merges between the two, but I can't get into the chart. The charts make me nauseous a little bit. They like, you know, and that's another thing, a big misconception is like that you really need to understand crypto and like be like some crypto trader to like be in this space or to understand the tech. And it's like, no, you know, not at all. Like you don't really need to trade. I mean, it helps like if you try it out one time, but you don't need to. There's a lot of people in the NFT space, for example, in the art space that don't trade crypto at all.
I think maybe a part of that is because you know, if you're early on, you're kind of growing up in the kind of tokenomics of everything, and you know, the understanding of the blockchain at an intimate level. And I think, at least for me, my intro was through Ethereum and Bitcoin and buying the coin, you know, and like, yeah, of course you get excited when you make a nice profit on something, but this was before NFTs were even a thing. And so there was that really strong financial component of it that I think for at least early adopters, and you know, I'm sure from people on the outside that see these kind of numbers, there's that financial attraction to the space, which has had really positive, as you know, your story and many others, there's a really positive outcome from that. And obviously the evolution of the internet now is like, you know, you're able to actually own and prove ownership and trade and support others financially through ownership of digital objects and art and whatsoever. So I think, you know, a lot of education about that side of things is probably going to be really important as more people get involved, not just to come for the shiny object. But, you know, one thing that I really value is, like I was saying, you know, I feel like you can tap in at any time and everyone is in different time zones. And I have friends I communicate with, you know, in Asia or back home in England and Europe. And, you know, you kind of know the time that these people are coming on because they start being active on social media. So I really appreciate that dynamic too. And I think for the general, what you'd say normies right now is really pushing on those things. And I think, you know, like you were saying before about the dystopian view of VR, I think it just depends how it's handled and who's doing it and who's, you know, putting the messages out and who people are really listening to. And if the good message and I guess like the good examples actually rise to the surface, then I'm sure there can be more of a positive outlook on, you know, where things are going.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I think also this space is really interesting because it made me want to look into how other things work. Like, like what's BlackRock or what's this or what's that? I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people, you know, things like stocks and all this stuff, like just never really interested me. I was just like, I don't know. Or just who's really, you know, doing what. And then, but when you're like in this, like in it, you kind of realize that like it all controls it's kind of like all one and the same. And I'm like, whoa, they definitely opened up my mind. Same players. And there's definitely an interesting game going on. And then when you're in the tech world, you're kind of like at the forefront of everything because tech propels everything forward, especially being on X with like Elon Musk taking over and that whole thing. You're just like, whoa, this is happening.
Yeah,
and then
front row seat.
Yeah. And it's been very interesting, you know, doing a little bit of, I guess, citizen journalism because on X, it's kind of like you could take the mic and you just you can announce, like, you're talking about what's going on. And a lot of people just, break news there. And like, you actually kind of you're able to like tap in with people that really live in a certain place, right? There's like a lot of rooms, spaces where it's like, okay, this is what's happening. We're live here with so-and-so. They're in this country. This is what's happening in this country. And then like people are just like, oh, that's not true. I saw this on the news. Is this, this? And it's like, okay. I found that really interesting, and I still find it very interesting. But the fact that I can travel pretty much the world right now and have a community anywhere, I think that's really cool. I think it's just different than other quote unquote communities, this, I guess, if you want to say industry, because, you would have, let's say, the film community, but it's like, okay. Or you have like a music community, okay, fashion community, but this encompasses everything.
It ties everything together.
Everything.
Yep.
Like there's people, fashion, art, music, a lawyer, I don't know, just, and that's who's made up of, these communities, people that are really interesting too, that, have taught me so much, that I really appreciate, like with everything, with AI, like all of that stuff. And it feels really good to be ahead.
Yeah. And that you've also taught, right? Because you've traveled and you've spoken to people in, law or economics or whatever,
Yeah, that was really interesting. So I actually, thinking about this makes me smile because May 2023, so I guess it's like, wow. Okay. May 2023, I got invited to BIA. BIA is a beautiful building and they're all focused on, sustainability and,
where is it?
It's in Sharjah, which is in the United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
So, it's about maybe like a 30 minute drive from Dubai. So you go Dubai to Sharjah because the UAE is made up of different emirates. So there's like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, and BIA is there. And actually they're going to turn Sharjah into this like really cool, futuristic, sustainable world. Shout out to the UAE because they're very forward thinking in regards to technology. And they, when you're in the UAE, you feel like almost like a star being in emerging tech or in Web3 or NFTs and blockchain. They're really using it. Whereas I feel like in North America, it's all backwards. I feel like the government uses it, but on the low. And then they're just like, no, you guys are making money. Nope, not on my watch. But in the UAE, it's like, it's completely different. So I got invited to give a talk on tomorrow's tech. And this was before the Meta Quest 3 came out. This was before Apple Vision announced. And I was working very closely with Tetra, the CEO of OD Labs, the XR tech company. And I'm like, well, tomorrow's tech is extended reality. Like it's so clear. So I'm like, Tetra, you gotta help me with this also, because it's like, it's so hard to envision some things. Like what I see now, it's like everything he told me 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. But like when you don't have it or you experience it, it's like, okay, I get where this is going. And I knew that it was a future, but it was like, I couldn't like see it. Like, yeah, I experimented in virtual reality. But it's like the way that it is now, So we put together a talk, and this was in front of 150 Fortune 500 lawyers. So Fortune 500 companies, but it was the lawyers.
The lawyers from the companies.
From the companies. And it was all about how extended reality is going to affect every single industry. We gave a whole demonstration on how people could interact with mixed reality, what it was, how it's going to affect real estate, the cosmetic industry, industrial industry, every single industry. It was really amazing. And then boom, in the summer, Apple announced that there's going to be the Apple Vision. I saw the keynote. I was like, it is real. This is like, the first iPhone, first computer. Like, this is so cool. And we share the same birthday. It's iconic. And I'm launching the first of its kind augmented reality generative art project on chain. So I'm like, it's all happening this month. It's really, really incredible, divine timing. And have been educating people about this for like many months, for like a full year, really. I started to really understand that, there's so much happens in the Web3 space, and we've had a lot of ups and downs where sometimes you could really think, what's going on here? Why am I here still? Or why am I, putting energy in this community? What's happening here? Because a lot of, there's a lot of good, but then there's obviously when there's a lot of energy in a place, like think about money. It's like there's really good, but it's also really bad. Yeah. So it's the same thing with this industry. It's really, really good. Like it has the power to literally heal loneliness and art and all this stuff. But then there's really bad. There are no good people. But I don't think it's limited to this industry. I think it's
everywhere.
It's everywhere. People like to try to make it be like, oh, it's this industry,
it's crypto,
or it's crypto scammers. It's like, yeah, that's just the narrative that the quote unquote higher ups want people to say and think so that people don't own their assets. I mean, there's a lot of power in owning your assets. Right. I mean, if you think about the centralized banking system right now, if you want to give $100,000 to your grandma, they're going to be like, well, who's your grandma? What's her address? Who are you? Oh, it's going to take this amount of days.
You want to have to touch that transaction.
You want to take $1 million. You want to take 50 million today. There's a lot of. They're telling you what you can do or not, isn't it? It's kind of interesting. People don't think about that. I didn't think about that before I got into this industry at all. I didn't realize. I was like, oh, it's in the bank. It's safe. It's there. But it's like
you don't know better.
You don't own that. You really don't own that. When you own it when you have full control over your assets. And nobody really talks about that. And it's like digital ownership is huge. Right now, if Fortnite, let's say you spend your life grinding these skins and getting all these assets, if Fortnite shuts the server down, it's all gone. You don't own those assets.
Right.
That's why on-chain tradable gaming assets, I think it's going to be huge, especially now with extended reality. In the next 10 years, it's going to be a, trillion whatever dollar industry, because it's like, don't you want to own those things that you got like in the game that you spent all the time? Money, people spend so much money on these assets. Don't you want to own them? Right now, somebody could literally shut the server. It's gone.
Finished.
I mean, people saw a little taste of not owning stuff with TikTok. A lot of my videos are now muted. They're gone, basically. Like I can't recover them because like the TikTok muted the audio because there was audio playing in the background. And it's a lot of people, like imagine that's like your number one platform.
Like that's your livelihood, yeah.
And it's like, it's gone. TikTok can literally just shut it down in 2 seconds. Like it's over. You don't have a platform anymore. And I think that really brings up the discussion of, I don't think we're ready for it right now, but getting into decentralized social media and how that would work and ownership of your community. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but it's like right now, if you have, let's say, a bunch of followers on Instagram, where that's like your bread and butter, that's your community, like Instagram, it's all gone. You get banned.
Yeah, no access.
No access anymore.
All the time. Shadow banning. And
all the time. You get shadow banned, you get banned, whatever reason.
Control hacked. Of your reach.
It's done. How do you get with those people? Okay, a mailing list. I don't know. Like, how do you? So there's actually social media platforms right now. My friend is obsessed with this platform. It's called Farcaster, and they've been talking about it in the industry like all week. And apparently, you like it's kind of like a decentralized social media, and you could. Your community, your following, like you never lose access to that. It's like yours. And you could airdrop things to them, like send things to them, like all of that stuff, which is really interesting. I don't know if it's going to happen overnight, but it's definitely like the TikTok stuff happening. I don't think we've seen what that's going to do to people or like where that's going to go.
There's been a lot of experimentation you've seen with that kind of ownership of your audience, right? And ownership of your content, which I think is really important. And like you said, you don't know until you know better. So really interested to see where that nets out, because, it's very early days, but I think the fact that people are thinking about it, and if enough people are driving towards that common goal, it's all about, I think, taking ownership of, like you said, your digital objects, your assets, your time, which is you're spending a lot of time, as you have been, building a platform. You don't want that to be taken away, other than if you do something silly and, and you like start to lose people's interest. But, you know, besides those kind of things and that kind of narrative, I think you need to protect your assets. And I think your community is an asset too.
100%.
Yeah.
You also need to, even if all this does just for the next 2 to 3 years is make us question what it means to own our assets, I'm fine with it. Like, I think that, again, not enough people are questioning or even realize that they don't own anything. Like, they don't, you know, if you put all the money in the bank, you don't own that, really. With great power comes great responsibility, I will say. So a lot of people are like, I don't want to own any, like, I don't want to think about it. I'm scared, because obviously with ownership, you have the keys. If you give those, you're responsible. People don't want that type of responsibility. It is nerve-wracking. I can't deny this. It's not perfect. It's not on Apple level user experience. Like, Apple's user experience is just flawless. Like, your grandma can understand it. Explain it like I'm 5 type of user experience. Where owning your digital assets, the experience with what you would have to use, like these, you know, wallets like MetaMask, and
it's pretty scary.
It's really scary because one click with social engineering, which, by the way, oh my God, another huge misconception is like social engineering only exists in crypto space or Web3 space. No. Do you know how many, and this is super sad, like grandparents, like elderly, are getting socially engineered right now into thinking that they need to pay like a telephone provider company or, you know, their grandson needs somebody, and they're getting scammed left and right. PayPal scams. Oh my God, it bothers me so much. And PayPal is a, you know, Web2 application, and people are getting scammed. Like Instagram, left and right. Oh my God. There's for sure going to be a Michaela hitting scams. You up, being like, hey, do you want to do some crypto trades? Right. People need to understand this. I don't know. I try to mention it very often. It is like, I just don't know, but people need to really educate. We need to pass down the torch, your friends, family, elderly, what social engineering is, how to, you know, stay away from the, you know, what to do, not to just click random links. Even for, you know, young women, like safety, like don't just click random like UPS tracking like text messages or, you know, things like that. There's a lot that can go on there.
I think the scary thing is it's like more accessible, right? Like the more data you have and the more of a digital footprint you have, the more people can access you. And, you know, you could sort of say social engineering goes back when people used to have to knock at your door and try to scam you in person, right? Trick you into believing they're the electrician or something like that, right? And weaving some stories around that. But now,
or the Nigerian prince,
right? The email,
exactly from the Nigerian prince, the OG social engineering days,
exactly.
So there's a lot of education that we need to implement, and people get it all the time. It's not just in this space, but the scary part is in this space that your keys, it's your assets. So, but that's why a lot of people come into this space. They see a lot of money, and they don't educate themselves. And I'm like, how are you buying something for like $50,000 and you don't even know what you're doing? Like, and so many people want to skip the steps with me. Like, they're like, no, what do I buy? I'm like, do you even know what you're doing? We saw a lot of people lose money and assets and really understand that they didn't know what they were doing during the FTX collapse.
Right.
With the Sam Bankman-Fried thing. That was really sad because that was a centralized exchange. And what people don't realize is, you know, you have a centralized exchange, which is centralized, which means like not your keys, not your crypto. It's another company. So it's almost like, it's pretty much like leaving it in the bank. And people don't know the difference between a centralized wallet and then your own, like a hot wallet, you know, or a cold wallet, or like all of these different things. And a lot of people just kind of left it in there thinking, oh, it's mine. And, you know, this can't just collapse. I mean, how many banks collapse too? Like, banks aren't even that safe either. Like,
no one's immune.
No one's safe. But yeah, I like the conversation of the digital ownership, even if I don't have all the answers, even if I don't, it's not flawless. It's just getting that discussion going.
It's the concept.
Yeah.
And what that can do.
And making people aware.
Yeah. How does spirituality and spiritual guidance play into all of this? I'm sure you have methods to keep yourself grounded. But you mentioned before in our prior conversation about being in the right place at the right time. And it seems like you have this internal compass that you listen to that brings you, as we mentioned, you kind of living as a nomad right now to the right place. Even being here in LA right now, there is a lot of positivity that came out of that. How do you learn to listen to that and pay attention to this compass that you have?
Yeah, great question. I think that actually just came this year. December, well, not this year, but so like December 2023 going into January. I think it might have come maybe with a little bit of like growing older, like getting a little bit older, maybe more mature, maybe the brain is fully developed. But what I started to do that worked out really well for me is even if I'm in a room with nobody, that's the best place to be. And it's removing this like FOMO, this fear of missing out, where it's just like, because I'm the best place to be, because I'm, and then it kind of like shifted my perspective where it's like, okay, whenever I'm going to do something, what's the plot? Like now we say like, do it for the plot, and I love that. Like that has been something that me and my friends have been yelling out. And I just went into January with this, like, let's do it for the plot. You're the writer, director, creator of your own movie, and kind of eliminating this like FOMO where it's like, okay, like things are always happening. No matter what, like to me, like, in this industry and just like life. And then, you could get this like paralyzed feeling and like just start, being like, it's all happening at the same time, existential crisis, blah. But if you're like, wait a minute, okay, this world is for me. This world is for you. Like, but in my world, I'm the main character in my movie. And how do I just want to be a paper bag being blown by the wind, like back and forth? Or do I actually want to take action and be like, no, I'm the creator and the writer. So if I'm doing it for the plot, like what's the plot? This is the plot. And I'm the plot. A lot of people ask me like, why are you in LA right now? Because it's the vibe, like what's the reason? I'm like, I'm the reason, and then you just make stuff happen and you kind of like take it, initiative where it's like, LA is kind of like a second home in my heart to me. But over the years, I would like do all these things by myself or whatever. And then this year, I'm like, what if I just, I don't know, made a group chat, like just said like, who's here? Made a group chat of like, people, just whoever comments, honestly, 5 people, 6 people. And I just go like, okay, who wants to go to Runyon? We're all leaving the chat. We're going to Runyon. You make it happen. Oh, we're all going here. We're all doing this. And like, it brought me so much happiness. And I don't know if this even answers the original question, but it's like, I've had to deal with FOMO a lot growing up. I grew up in Montreal, and then at 15, I left the city to go to Toronto to pursue like my career in film, or what I wanted my career in film to be, with my mom and my little sister. And I had to experience a lot of FOMO because I did have friends in Montreal. I had no friends in Toronto. No friends in Toronto. That was the start of the loneliness,
Starting again.
It started then like 15 and then it just kind of never, it only ended like a week ago. So we're so back. But I would see like, Snapchat was like a thing, and you'd see all the friends, going out and doing this. And it was always like, oh, we're going to this concert. And like, I couldn't, I used to take the bus like every weekend to go to make it to Montreal to like still, have my friends. And then there was a certain time where like there was this really cool concert at the time. I think it was French Montana, whatever. I was like, no, I really want to go. I couldn't go. And it was Friday night. And I was like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, just what are you going to do? Like you can't go. And I started journaling, and I remembered like that was when I really understood that there's always in a way going to be like another party. There's always going to be another like birthday party, like always going to be something else to like have FOMO about.
Yep.
So if you don't understand this and like make it that like where you are is the place to be, even if you're alone in the room, like you're the most exciting thing. You're the best. Like, so what? Everybody's having a good time. Have a good time with yourself.
Start
however
with
that
the foundation of yourself.
Yeah. At a young age that I learned to remove FOMO from my life. I mean, I still experience it sometimes, but lately, like, especially now, I am very confident with it, where I'm able to really be like, okay, if something is boring, you're boring. Like, people will be like, oh, this is so boring. You're boring. I don't know. Like, you know, why is it boring? Why don't I like to be with myself? Why is me being alone in this room right now not the best time in the world?
So would you say that, you know, taking away that FOMO of, you know, the next party or what everyone else is doing and, you know, people inviting you here, there, blah, 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 which can get overwhelming, is that, would you say that's a key component of you being able to now listen to your internal compass and like, okay, this is where I actually need to be right now, and being okay with that versus maybe not being over here?
It's really, the grounding part is understanding that where I am is where I am supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't mean that I don't have goals or desires, or I, you know, maybe sometimes really need to and change my environment, but it's where I am is where I'm supposed to be. And if I'm not somewhere because of other like circumstances, like going crazy about it, you know, like, oh, I'm missing this, you know, really cool event where like everyone in the industry is there and we're meeting cool people. Like, I don't know, like we met Elon Musk. It's like, okay, yeah, I would have FOMO from that. But it's like, again, where I am is like where I'm supposed to be. And that mentality has been leading me in a really good space.
Trusting in that guidance.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
That like you're what's happening.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not there, can't even be that poppin', you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you sort of get into that space where you're not in control of your movements because you're playing into what everything else that's happening. So you can miss opportunities. And I think in, you know, early on, like in my career specifically, or even like getting out here to LA, I had to cut a lot of stuff off. I couldn't be out there. I couldn't be going to the club 3 times a week or whatever, like, because I had to be okay again with being at home and perfecting a craft. And there's always going to be an event to go to. Friends are going to be doing stuff, you know, but there becomes that time where you really have to like drill in and focus and listen
Lock
to yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, you got to lock in, but be happy to lock in, you know, because it's like, again, where you are, if you're locking in, that's the best place to be.
Mm-hmm. And there's a trade-off, you know, like you said, the FOMO is the trade-off, right? Like you, oh, I could be doing this. I could have been over here, blah, blah, blah. But I think you got to chip away at yourself. And I think also going back to the kind of mental struggles, I think sometimes you can take on a lot of energy from other people, and that can really weigh on you and weigh on your time. And then you wake up and it's like, oh, like it's like 6:00 and I haven't given any time to myself. And then that can be on repeat, you know, or your evenings are so important, but oh no, I'm outside and I'm not focusing on getting myself mentally prepped for the next day and starting again, you know? So there's a lot of distractions. So I identify with that.
But when you're doing that trade-off, the fulfillment is, it's kind of like when you're training to be like a gold, you know, medalist, right? Like you're choosing, okay, is eating the cake at 10 p.m. going to take me to where I want to go? And this is actually something really cool if you struggle with like making decisions, which I used to. I definitely am getting better. And, you know, I don't even like to do this because sometimes I'm like, no, I don't want, like, I want to do the fun thing. But it's like, okay, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And is this action decision going to take me to where I want to go? And I started doing that early on with when I was like 15, experiencing the FOMO where I'm like, okay, at the time I had a goal to be on like Disney Channel. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, if I go to this party tonight, is this going to take me closer to where I want to go, to Disney, you know, or to this or to that? And I started doing that and making these plays. And I feel like it worked out. But that's like a quick little thing that just really puts you back on track, where it's like, okay, if I want to be healthy and, you know, fit, okay, if I'm eating this chocolate cake, like I might really want it right now, but is that going to take me to where I want to go? And when you constantly make those decisions, taking you where we want to go, it's very fulfilling because you get there and nobody could take it away from you. That ecstasy is the real ecstasy. There's like, you know, the other ecstasy, that, you know, pill, but that's an instant gratification. It goes away just as fast that it comes, and causes a whole other issue, whole other problems. But this ecstasy that I'm talking about is long lasting, and it is so fulfilling, and nobody can take it away from you.
And I feel if you've done it once, like using the cake, the chocolate cake as the metaphor, you know, we're creatures of habit. You do it once, you taste the kind of ecstasy of what your trade-offs actually allowed you to do and where you ended up. It becomes a part of your lifestyle, I feel like, you know, and you start to repeat those trends. It could be a very simple thing, you know, not going out at night or something, or, you know, like you said, not eating the chocolate cake, but that compounds. And it really has a big influence over your life. It's a practice and a discipline.
Oh, discipline is really important. I struggle with discipline. Again, nothing of what I'm talking about I'm perfect in. But that's just life. And, you know,
it's a constant practice.
It's a constant practice. It really is. Like life is a constant practice. Like all of these things are a constant practice. You can't just do it once and then, you know, do it a couple of times and it's like done. You always need to be using these tools and, you know, like checking in with yourself, like what tools am I going to use this month? Or because, you know, for me, it changes. Sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it's affirmation. Like sometimes it's other things. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just like, I don't know. We're just free. We're just out here. Like, let's just see what's going to happen. Because it's almost like life is like a video game and it's like, okay, every single level, there's always tools around you for your character to like, you know, potentially win that level. And the thing is, though, is the challenges, like the monsters, let's say in the game, they get bigger and bigger. So you get more powerful and, you know, you get stronger, you're leveling up, but so are the monsters, so are the challenges. The monsters are leveling up just as much as you are leveling up.
Yep.
And I think whenever I have this kind of like existential crisis feeling, that's actually when I'm leveling up. Like I kind of usually go really low in my mind before I shoot right back up. And that's when I know I'm like entering another level.
It's like that resistance, right? It's like training.
Yeah.
I feel that too. Like when you're going to the next stage, there's always this kind of, there was a pastor that said this one time. I heard him say it's like when you're giving birth, right? There's that pain and that like stress and, you know, it can be quite traumatic for the mother. But he kind of likened that to the resistance in life that you need to go through sometimes in order to give birth to your next stage.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to remember. Like if something is really worth like fighting for and achieving, you're going to feel some of that resistance. And then there's also on the other side, it's like that resistance that you feel that's kind of telling you this isn't what you're supposed to be doing as well. And how do you decipher those two things? And I think the only way is to really like try it, and you'll know, hopefully, if you're spiritually aware as well, like which path is right. But you're going to experience some of that in order to achieve and unlock and go to the next level.
I really like what you said about how it's like giving birth. I think whenever I'm like doing a project, I'm always like giving birth to something. It's a beautiful way to think about it. And it's very true. And there's a lot of pain that goes into it. But then you have this like you just have this life, you know. All my projects I feel like are like a baby, I do feel that way. No, it's beautiful.
You're there at 4 a.m, like, can't get the idea. And you know, it's like so stressful at times. And then it calms. And I think it calms when like that spark of imagination or that idea that just drops in your head comes from being I think, fatigued. Like you said, being like so low, you're somehow able to receive, which is a very spiritual feeling. I think creativity is a very spiritual practice. And when you're tapped in like that, you're almost like telling the universe, telling God, telling the world, like, this is what I want. And you're determined. And it's happened, I mean, time and time again. It'll be like 4, 5, 6. The sun is rising and then the idea comes and then you flow. And I don't know a project where that hasn't really happened, when you're exhausted and that's when it comes. You know? So I would love to hear a bit more about OD Labs before we start wrapping up here. It seems like a very, very interesting project. It sounds like it ties into your philosophy and the kind of tip of the spear of what you're trying to achieve. So just let's talk about OD Labs for a minute.
Yeah. Again, the story comes so full circle because, like I was mentioning before, Tetra, the CEO of the company, gave me my first transaction fee to upload my artwork. Now, how that all happened really quick is this was like still during the pandemic time where I was like, okay, I didn't decide to, end it all. And,
Thank God.
you're right. Like, I didn't decide to end it all. Like it didn't end that day. The next day, like literally it felt like the next day, I had somebody who actually was the first person I ever met in Toronto. Like I said, I didn't really have any friends, but they just randomly came back into my life and they're like, hey, we're going to do this like shoot at this really cool house. You want to come help out? And I used to I grew up on, going to shoots and just apprenticing and just to learn and be in the vibe of film. I love being in the vibe of film, especially music videos. Like I'm very passionate about like music and visuals. And I'm like, I got nothing to please get me out of the house. Let's go. I walk into this house and, it was like color was just brought back to my life. And the house was of Tetra. And he lives in this really big, it looks like Picasso's studio and it's, filled with art. And there was people and movement and just art and color. And I was like, whoa. And the first person that I met, I didn't even know it was Tetra's house. I had no idea where I was. It was like, I didn't even know what was happening. They were recreating the music video Pop Star with Justin Bieber.
Okay.
I don't know. That was like the thing. So there was like, it was crazy, but it was like life was there. Felt the energy in the house. And I met a now great friend of mine. Her name is Mercy. And she actually does the head of sound at OD. And it's just like an amazing creative being. She's a sound engineer, producer, DJ. And she's like, I like you. Like we should like work together. Like you're talented. And I was like, bet, like let's do it. You're incredible. I love doing video stuff. So like we collaborated on a bunch of projects. And at the same time, again, this was like 3 years ago, like right kind of like before April 2021, or sorry, this was this was in the summer. I'm sorry. like of like 2020. Yes, maybe. I don't know. Timelines are kind of crazy. Sometime during the pandemic, it's all blurring together. And I started following Tetra, the owner of the house, who's this like mysterious Great Gatsby. Like, who are you? Like, what is this house? Like, who are you? What's happening? Why do you have so many like McLarens? Like, I don't know what's going on. And why is everything coming to life and whatever? And he was posting about NFTs and Clubhouse. And that's how I heard about Clubhouse. That's how I heard about NFTs. Okay, now fast forward to 3 years. Like obviously, we've all developed, really interesting relationships with each other. And he's been a mentor to me in this space, Mercy as well. And he was talking about extended reality before anybody, like publicly. He was talking about this. He was making his art and paintings come to life with mixed reality. Him and the co-founder of the company, Bat Not Bad. You probably have seen his work, but before. He's very popular for like the futuristic style videos. Yeah, so he's the co-founder of the company. And fast forward now, everything that he said 3 years ago is real. Like he's the one who told me, you're going to be able to like cook with Gordon Ramsay in your living room. And I'm like, you're crazy. I'm like, I don't know what you're on, but you're crazy. So to be able to have that vision, I mean, he's very prolific, an amazing, talented artist and very smart businessman as well. So I'm now head of communications at OD Lab. So again, full circle, because we kind of like tap back in. Like I kind of ran with it, you know, like that transaction fee that he gave me. I mean, it could have went absolutely nowhere, but I ran. I ran.
You made the
with
most out of that.
I made the most out of it. We talk about it to this day. Like I really ran with it. And then I tapped back in with him just April 2023. And I was like, the space needs this now. Are we ready to like do something? Like he's been cooking up the whole time, but I'm like, let's I'm here every single day. I've created this platform. Like let's
collaborate and do something.
Yeah,
Did you have a vision of what when you said this space needs this?
Well, I wanted to bring him. I think that we lost a little bit of the raison d'être, like reason of being, in French, like because it was supposed to be about art and tech. And then it just became very like greedy, when there's a lot of money, like the space became like really greedy. Yeah. And I was like, we need you because you are the perfect mergence between art and tech. Like nobody's doing this right now. Nobody's doing augmented reality galleries, or exhibits at the time. Like nobody, you need to be in this, like he never left the space. But it was like, you need to be more like, let's launch something. I know you got the ideas, like let's tap in. And we did. So now I'm a part of, I guess, pretty much making history. Again, it's really cool. But we are launching the first generative AR, so augmented reality art project that's on chain. So provenance purposes, really cool. Claiming it. We're claiming it. Being the first is always interesting. No matter what happens, it's just like you're the first.
Yeah.
Nobody could take that away from you, especially on chain. This is where we're going for the next 10 years. And to have that like AR companion is really interesting.
And could you talk a bit more about the companion side of it? Like,
yeah.
There's many versions of these
there's
companions.
I think like over a billion like combinations. Like, I mean, there's going to be 10,000 of them. So there's provenance in that as well. It's pretty much like, CryptoPunks was like the first generative art project, 10K generative art project on chain. So this is kind of like what I'm looking at it as, where it's like, I mean, it's bold to say, but it's like, I mean, that's what it is, 10K. And yeah, there's many different color combinations. We've done incredible stuff already. A lot of firsts too. We did the first ever cryptographic cipher, mixed reality cryptographic cipher, where like we got our community, like we've been educating for a while now. And that's why they're really excited, because it's like, we've been talking about the XR stuff for a while. And like I was saying earlier, when you're early to something, you can use that for yourself. In however you want to run with it, whether it's by making content, by making your own art, by consulting, by just knowing about this tech, like just understanding what is extended reality, which is a mix between augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, or even understanding, I mean, spatial computing is interesting. I mean, so many people don't realize they interact with augmented reality and mixed reality like every day. Every filter that you use on Instagram, every filter you use on TikTok, like all these gaming filters, that's all mixed reality. When Shrek, pops up in your room, it's mixed reality. People just don't realize and understand. And people look at you like you're crazy, or they don't understand the importance of this. But I think, extended reality it gives so much value to this whole space. Digital assets everywhere. Like this is the most bullish sentiment for this whole space. Yeah.
And don't you think that when people think you're crazy, you're actually
you're onto something,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Always, as the saying goes. Thank you for sharing like your personal story, your professional story. I love the fact that you're just, you've now arrived at being very nimble and being able to collaborate with people, and also, I mean, agreeing to do this very spontaneously. I really appreciate, like I said, the time. And I would like to know, you seem to be, I mean, through our conversation, you obviously are paying a lot of attention to what's going on. And there's a lot of people also, I feel, who would want to know more or learn more and maybe get past a lot of the haze. What advice would you give to anybody that was maybe in your situation a few years ago, sort of scratching at the surface, how to sort of approach this space and the technology that's available. And I'm sure there's a lot of fireworks going off in people's minds. Oh, I could do this and I could do that. How would you say would be a really good way to approach things?
Like to get into the Web3 space?
Yeah.
I think definitely right now, because again, it's like always changing, but like at the time of us doing this amazing podcast and conversation, it's going on Twitter. Like Twitter is definitely like the place where the community is at, and you can like learn a lot from people. So it's going into these Twitter spaces and just seeing where it takes you, and joining the conversation and asking those questions. Because like what's interesting about this space is that you don't need to be an artist. You don't need to be into tech. You don't need to be smart. Like you just need to be you and ask questions and see what you're interested in. See what you like. Are you into the fashion part? Are you into like, you don't know until you kind of just go into it. But that is definitely a great place where people harness the community, which is the spaces. Again, at the time of filming this podcast, that's like what I say to people to just kind of like get in there, because you might come for one thing and then you might leave with a completely different thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So
yeah, you meet people like yourself. There's so many people that are really willing to share information that I think has been great, especially like for myself, kind of getting in 2017, kind of late for some people, right? Early for a lot of other people, but it's a very generous space. And I think very welcoming.
Yeah, people want to help out.
Yeah.
A lot of people think like, oh, it's too overwhelming. I don't know tech. I'm not a developer. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like really, I'm not, some tech genius or anything like that, or even like the best artist or whatever. I'm just me, and I've met extraordinary people. I mean, the first step would be like going on obviously to like Twitter to tap in with that community. And then the next would be to actually go to one, if you can, if it's accessible to you, one in real life event.
Yeah.
Meet some people, or initiate it yourself if you could. Maybe you find like 5 people that are in your area. Maybe you tweet it out if that's what you're into. I'm a big believer in like building your own community and starting out with like 5 people, making a WhatsApp group and just being like, hey, we're meeting for coffee Thursday. Just getting people together and like, people will take their time to explain stuff to you and just like tap in. And I think that's like really important and good for anything that you want to launch as like an individual, because like I just have a group chat, even if it's 5 people, and like make it happen. And you see a lot of power into that.
Definitely witnessed that firsthand. I mean, even going to the punks events and just being surrounded by, it's obviously larger and it's grown like massively. But going to the first few events that I have attended and meeting the smart, intelligent, very giving people that are part of that community too. It's been incredible. And I, took my fiance to one and just to say, hey, like, look, I know you see me online a lot and I'm on Twitter a lot, but like there's real people behind these PFPs, and like this is, the kind of crowd that I'm communicating with, and kind of opened up a lot of
high value
ideas
people
in her mind too. Very high value people. Yeah. Just, like I said, like it felt very warm and welcoming. So it's been a good journey as well. So I do have a question that I ask all of my interviewees, I guess, or whatever we would say.
Yeah.
If that's the right
Go
word.
for
it. All of my guests. What do you think it means personally to be a professional creative?
No. What does it mean to be a professional creative? Well, I think we touched on it a little bit, where I actually, when we were talking about the Intrusive Thoughts series, where I couldn't like create anymore because I was monetizing from it. And I get into those weird positions sometimes, actually, even with the Twitter spaces where it's like spoken word, very passionate about it. There's a lot of improv that goes into it. And I have a great time doing it. But then when it comes to monetizing from that, because like you're getting numbers and like, maybe that's the bread and butter at the time, you start to look at, okay, who's like, how many people are in the space? Or you start to be like, oh, how many listeners or people tuned in? Because you need stats, because you're monetizing from it, because that's what you're putting your energy into. hopefully what you're putting your energy into, that's what you're making money from. And it's like, if I'm not making money from it, I can't put my energy into it. So I started to, I keep kind of monetizing on my creative stuff. And so it really plays with me sometimes. So it definitely is a little bit of a struggle, but I look at it like, again, you're always kind of like somewhat of a trade-off. So it's like, okay, I rather this than, really like the 9 to 5, the office stuff, like being told what to do in that way. But also the other part is like, I'm telling myself what to do. And that's really scary because I'm responsible and like, I'm the one, chief level position.
You're
It's like,
your own client. Right?
Yeah. So look, it's a gift. I'm really, really blessed, but nobody gave this to me at all. I just took it and I make it what it is. Nobody gave this to me. I just was like, okay, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
This is what I'm focused on. So being I think we're all professional creatives. You know what? Actually, that's a better even what I just thought about right now. I think that we're all professional creatives. I think a lot of people underestimate their creativity and their power. And they think, if I'm not a painter or a ballet dancer or whatever,
or have a 9 to 5 or,
then I'm not creative. And it's like, no, you can constantly put yourself in a position to create, and you need to think about it, strategizing, or if you're a lawyer, I mean, there's creativity in the way that you delivered your words, and the way that you structure your arguments. Like, I think that's a ton of creativity. I think everybody's creative, and one way to actually tap into your creativity is, and I said this earlier, it's learning something new. And because what happens when you learn something new is the left side of your brain is like, do we know this? Like, can we find any, any moment in our brain that like we've done this? So it's starts analyzing. And then when it can't find anything, then the right side of the brain goes, okay, how do we create then this? And then it kind of has this this little spark, right? That goes off, and then creativity, that aha moment, that creativity is born, and you're really strategizing, problem solving, something that we don't in a way, like we stop kind of doing. Like I remember in school, you're constantly kind of like doing those problem solving stuff, or you're learning new stuff. So like, that's why children are creative. And then we kind of stop doing that. So we can all be creative. I think we're all professional creatives. It's just how much do we pay attention to that or nurture that?
How much you water
in our careers. Yeah.
I love that answer. Probably one of the longest, most intricate answers, actually. So thank you for giving it so much thought. And again, Michaela, appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck for the next journey and where you're going to be traveling to next, and all of the amazing people you're going to meet. And I appreciate you giving so much of your intimate thoughts and sharing some of your personal story too. And I appreciate you being so open.
Thank you so much, Rat. This was great. This was a great conversation. It's my pleasure and an honor, honestly. I love this. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Object, Subject, Form. Your engagement helps build a community of like-minded creatives as we navigate the complexities of our respective creative journeys together. If these stories and topics inspire you throughout the series, I encourage you to subscribe, share, and follow me through the links provided in the episode description.